this is the best wallet if you have back pain. Now I'm going to brief a content creator for video, which is harder to produce and harder to create. And I'm going to have a content creator talking about how this is great for back pain, because I already know that's an angle that has worked well in other creative. Video might cost me $500 plus all the time and edits and stuff like that. It's going to take me 3 weeks to get that video back and then test it, versus I can design in Figma a back pain ad, a static ad today and launch it today and know in a week if it's going to work. And then I'll be able to kind of test it with video later on, or like double down on it.
Welcome back. It's not a real down to chat episode if there's no beverages. Just going to crack open a little cherry blossom.
I got some LaCroix, I got some Fresca and some orange vanilla. Although I had one guy who DM'd me, was like, no one cares about your drinks. I'm like, I care about our drinks.
See, it's funny because last week we said, or a couple of weeks ago we said, like, if you don't give a shit about the beverages we're drinking, just shoot Cody a DM. And I guess that guy felt like that was his job. Yeah.
Oh, that was why. I wonder if he was just trolling then. I forgot about that.
That's too funny. But a couple of good episodes this season. If you haven't listened, we ended the last season with an episode with Nick on landing pages. We had a conversation with Kendall, who's crushed it for Graza, Canopy, a bunch of other ads on social and influencer, which is fun. If you haven't checked that out, check it out. Last week, I recorded an episode with Val Geisler, who was at Klaviyo and a retention wizard. Cody will probably record some more growth stuff as the season goes along, but it's exciting. We're a couple of weeks in. We're pushing this thing. We're doing the thing. I think to add on the top end of the pod.
No, I think, yeah, I mean, we took a few week break. I was traveling and then I got sick with the flu. So excited to be back and continue rolling again. But excited to listen to the one with Val. And then, yeah, if you guys are listening, either if you consider yourself a growth expert, want to talk growth, I figure I'll do an episode without Eli so he doesn't have to hear two growth idiots babbling about it. And he'd probably have a seizure if he heard people talking about upsells and growth for a while. But yeah, I would love to nerd out. Yeah, exactly. I would love to nerd out with somebody, talk about Advantage Plus, cost caps, landing pages, media buying, attribution, all that good fun stuff. So if anyone's down to chat, hit us up, and we'll obviously take the best submission, whoever we think would be the best episode. But no, excited to be back. Things have been super busy. I guess we're just wrapped up Q1, so we're into Q2. Had a monster Q1, which was awesome, and feel like there's never a break. But we're excited to be back. And what should we talk about today?
Yeah, so we are going to do, as per usual, we'll do a little growth segment, a little retention CX segment, and then I think that's basically the gist of it for this week. So you want to kick it off with some growth talk?
Yeah, let's do it. So I'm going to summarize my newsletter that got some good feedback that I did the other day, because I think it would be an interesting topic. I'm not sure, people listening, if they're established brands, new brands, but I think a lot of times when I'll talk about, creative testing and landing page testing and ads and stuff like that, the feedback is probably best for, the advice is probably best for people who are running scaled and established brands, at least probably, 6 and 7 figures, because, that's just what's most fresh in my mind.
Season 3 of Down to Chat is brought to you by Tapcart. We talk so often on this podcast about retention, and something that I've seen a ton of brands do lately is they're just like trying so hard to get every single customer to order twice or 3 times or 4 times, instead of focusing on the group of customers that are already proving to be super strong customers. The beauty of an app is that it is a thing that's focused on the top 10 to 30% of your customers. These are the people that download it, and it's a great opportunity to give these folks early access, special exclusive sales, and just communicate with these people in a much more VIP way. Tapcart found that the LTV of these top 10 to 30% of customers that use an app, their LTV increases 2.4x on average versus if they were just website visitors. So it's a great way to increase the communication you have with them, increase the LTV, and just kind of get close to these VIP segments. Listeners of Down to Chat, if you want to check out Tapcart, you can get your first 2 months for free. So it's tapcart.com/down to chat. And if you do create an app, we'd love to take a peek. So just shoot it over to Cody and I, and we'd love to give you feedback.
I finally wanted to kind of take some time to share how I would go about launching a new ad account and a new brand and a new growth operation. And so that's what I did. I'm actually going to pull it up. So bear with me one second. But yeah, it's really simple. I really break it down into kind of like a few key areas. I would say 4 areas. Number one is kind of, your offer, right? And I would consider your offer is what you're offering to people. It's what you're offering to the market, and so what that means to me is it's really a combination of the products you're selling, the price or discount you're selling them at, the combination of products that you're offering, any warranties, exchanges, refunds are actually considered in your offer, and if there's any kind of gift with purchase or something like that. So I think that's the most important thing, because you can have the best ad targeting, you can have the best attribution, you can have the best media buying, you can have the best creative, you can have the best landing pages. If you don't have the right offer, it's going to be nearly impossible to succeed. And so there's a few key components that come to that. Number one, your gross margins. You have to make sure that you are running ads to a product and to an offer, that is going to make it possible to support paid acquisition, costs. And you're going to have to do that in a way, where it's possible to make a profit on that. You, especially at the beginning, you do not want to be losing money on the first order and hoping. If you are raising money, I've seen it, you've probably seen it too, Eli. I've seen it too many times where brands are raising money and they are estimating their CAC and they're estimating their LTV. And most of them are all completely overly optimistic on their CAC, and they think they're going to get like a $10 CAC for whatever reason, and they think their LTV is going to be way higher, and in reality, it's usually the opposite. So you don't want to try to go negative hoping for an LTV. I'm not saying that CAC to LTV is dead. I think CAC to LTV is the right premise. I think people poorly modeled out their LTVs and they did assumptions based on small cohorts. And when you launch, the initial people that just get it and click are probably going to have really good LTVs. As you grow and scale, your LTV is probably going to decrease. And if you're modeling off of like an overly optimistic LTV, you're kind of going to be doomed, which is what I think a lot of people did. So don't even worry about LTV. You just are going to focus on your gross margin and making sure that you're break even at the very worst or profitable on first purchase. And to
what does a brand, one question, what does the brand do if they have like tiny AOV, like they're selling products for $27? Are they shit out of luck?
It's harder. So no, you got to do offers there, right? So there's 2 things. If you have let's say you're selling soda or something like that, again, it's harder. It's a harder landscape. A lot of this is why, some people think DTC is dead, because like some categories are going to be really hard to do on Facebook, like soda, because not only is your AOV going to be really low and you're going to have a $35 to $40 AOV, it's going to cost you $20 to ship that. It's going to cost you whatever to pick and pack, right? So you're going to be left with like a $5 landed gross margin, which means you can spend, $5 to break even. So it's going to be really impossible. So those brands are going to have to play the LTV game, but it's risky at that point. So there are definitely things you can do with offers. So here's how I would approach it, right? First of all, you have your gross margin, which to me, the definition of gross margin is just your product cost. If it costs you, $1 to make it and you sell it for $2, you're a 50% gross margin. You want to be 75% plus there. Do everything you can to get that 75% plus at an AOV of ideally $75. I'm giving you like the sweet spot. I'm not saying it's impossible without it, but I would say it's going to be a lot easier at $75.50. If you're selling something that's like $25, do everything that you can to bundle it. We'll talk about different types of offers, but to bundle it, to upsell it, to GWP it, to do volume price discounts, whatever it is, to get that average order value up north of $50. So first you have your gross margin, and then you have to take into account all your variable costs. So you have your shipping, you have your merchant processing. So what you pay Shopify every time an order goes through, both on your Shopify plan as on your credit card processing. You have your fulfillment costs. So what's it cost you to fulfill an order? I already mentioned what's it cost you to ship an order. Some people will include CX as a percentage. I don't, but you can include that as well. Any of those costs, those would be called your variable costs. You have to subtract that from your revenue and do this on a per order basis. You'd be left with what's called your landed gross margin, right? That's after your product costs, after all your variable costs, how much you have left over. Ideally, you want to shoot for 50% there, right? So if you're selling for $10, it should only cost you, $1 or $2 to make it, and then $3 to get it to people, all that stuff. And so you're left with $50 there, right? And then finally, you have your contribution margin. You take your landed gross margin and you subtract your cost per acquisition, and that's what you're left with after cost per acquisition. So your landed gross margin, if I back up a second, your landed gross margin is actually really important because that tells you how much you can spend to acquire a customer at break even. And you have to know that number. And the first step is to get that number as high as possible. You should have a spreadsheet where you're planning this contribution margin and gross margin, and you are playing around with different offers and different configurations. What if I bundled these together? What if I added this in? What if I did a volume price break here? Because what I see a lot of people do, and this is really roundabout answers, they focus so hard on average order value. And often I worry that's at the expense of contribution margin. What I mean by that is you can increase average order value a lot by bundling and by discounting, but a lot of times people are going such heavy discounts on it that I fear they're actually deteriorating margin at a faster rate than they're adding to their average order value. You're not trying to increase revenue. You really want to be looking at your contribution margin on everything. So make sure you really understand what margin you're left with at the end of the day. But if you don't have the right offer,
essentially, if you know that you're breaking even on your first order, then everything on top of that is what they call gravy, which I guess is like, if you think about the sustainability of a business, if one order is break even, then everything above that, any sort of retention lever you can pull, any sort of like email, SMS, all of that is kind of like extra added bonus, which makes a business easier to grow versus the businesses of 2020, 2021, or 2018 that were just like thinking about like on 8 orders, I break even, but my LTV is 12 orders, and they pull that number out of their ass. And, that's kind of the
I still advocate for first order profitability. Because then you really have no risk, and I think most people should do it. However, the only time in the beginning where I would acquire customers at break even is when you're launching and you're learning. And if you need to know your numbers inside your ad account, and you need to understand, okay, at a ROAS of 1.48, I break even, because a ROAS of 1, I lose money because I'm spending $1 to make $1, but then it cost me 48 cents to get it there. So I'm actually losing. So I need to make $1.50 for every dollar I spend. In the beginning, it's okay to break even, not, in my opinion, not for what you said, not because everything else is pure profit. I think you want to make profit on first order just to be safe in case they don't come back, because in the beginning you don't know. But it's because if you break even, you're left with the same number of dollars in your bank account, but you acquire a few things. Number one, you acquire an asset, you acquire a customer and a customer list who can come back and buy, they can refer other people, or they can give you feedback. You're also, if you're testing properly, acquiring data and acquiring learnings and knowledge of, hey, all right, here's what we did. We tested this and it worked. It's doing better. Like, it sucks to do that while losing money. You should be shutting off spend if you're losing money. But if you're breaking even, continue to spend as you continue to test things to try to turn a profit. So number one, right, is that pick your offer, figure out what's going to work, test it. Is it a gift with purchase? Is it a price break bundle? If you're selling a consumable like supplements, you'll get your classic 1, 3, and 6. Like, don't just sell one bottle, sell 1, 3, and 6, auto default it to the 3, and obviously make your 6 really expensive, make it your decoys, just like classic price psychology. Bundles can work as well. If you're selling something like skincare, it doesn't really make sense to buy 1, 3, and 6. Like, who needs 6 bottles of skincare unless you're like dry as fuck, I guess. But you don't want to assume that. So you want to bundle stuff. So maybe take your skincare and pair it with an eye cream and pair it with something else. And again, just be thoughtful as you're doing that you're adding products that obviously people want, that are desirable, so your CAC doesn't go too high if it's stuff people don't want, but also your margin is great. Like, you can probably add something in there, right? Like, every new order is going to cost you the most money to ship and stuff like that. But if you can collect more revenue and more margin per that order, you can kind of improve your contribution margin, quite a bit. Like, I remember Moise Ali on a podcast said, like, he made so much margin by adding a post-purchase mini deodorant upsell, because it's like, it really doesn't cost you anything extra to ship that, because you're already shipping the box. You're not going to a heavier box. You're not adding any weight. You're not going to a bigger box. and you're not reacquiring the customer. So you're really only paying for the cogs, so the $2 cogs, and making $12 of revenue. So you're essentially making $12 of margin per order that takes that. Say quarter of the orders take that, you're making $3 of margin per order.
Wow.
So I think that's what people need to do. And if they haven't spent the time thinking about constructing offers for contribution margin and stuff like that, like, go back to the drawing board. That's number one. Any thoughts or questions before we go on to the next step?
Yeah, I'm just going to say on the retention side, the lever of bundling is huge as well, and we've spoken about this quite a few times in the pod. But I think it's so important to, if you're assuming that your customer is going to love one product, it's like a 50-50. But if you add multiple products to their order, you just have a higher chance of them liking at least one of them. So it just gives you a larger opportunity to, somebody will hate the product but be okay with the brand and come back. So I think aside from just the growth side, on the retention side, multiple SKUs, any sort of bundle is a win.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, I've seen that kind of time and time again across brands. I think that's really important to consider retention of the products as well, not just margin. However, I think you just have to be careful at the early stages of doing that, because if you play the LTV game, you're going to run out of cash and stuff like that. So ideally, you get something that can kind of help and be good for both of them. For example, like a gift with purchase, we just tested, but it can do that, where hopefully you're increasing your contribution margin, kind of like the same, native deodorant example, where we're adding a little, mini hippie sticker mascara that's only going to cost us $2.50 to add in, but we're able to, collect however much more revenue because of it, or it converts that much better.
Early results, yay or nay?
Yay. Gift with purchases, crush. Test it properly. We use an app called Intelligems, no affiliation, but it just spits you out like a variable profit calculator, that where you're really able to kind of accurately understand, like, down to like the like the contribution margin lift of something. And gift with purchase, yay or nay. You just have to test, because you don't know what's going to work. Like we tested no gift with purchase versus one gift with purchase versus another one. So like 3 different things. And the one I thought was going to work, that I thought was going to crush, actually wasn't. So yeah, definitely test gift with purchase if you haven't. If you want to see a brand that does it really well, Athletic Greens pretty much nearly always has, and a gift with purchase on one of their landers. Down to Chat is brought to you by Postscript. In my opinion, Postscript is the SMS platform built for Shopify brands. To be totally transparent, we just switched at Jones Road to Postscript, and it is the best decision we've ever made. We were on a competitor before, and they started tacking on all types of fees. The platform was not being improved at all. It was just getting really expensive, and the service we were getting was just nothing compared to what we've received from Postscript since being with them. The product with Postscript is just hands down the best that I've ever used. To me, it has the best integrations for Shopify stores of all sizes. It's got the best feature set. The segmentation is the easiest and most powerful. The pop-ups are great. But really, the thing that I love is I've never experienced such great service from a software provider. The only time I heard from our previous provider was around contract renewal time. But with Postscript, they've gone out of their way, above and beyond, to make our program uber successful. And it's really evident that they care about us getting as much value out of our program as possible. So in my opinion, with Postscript, you get the best product on the market, you get it at the best price, and you get it with the best service. There's a reason why the fastest growing Shopify brands like Dr. Squatch, Native, Olipop, Feastables, and now Jones Road Beauty are all using Postscript for their SMS program. Sign up for Postscript today to take your SMS program to new heights. So first you have offer, then you've got ad creative, right? A lot of people talk about that being the biggest lever, and it's one of the biggest levers. I don't know if it's the most important, but you've got to obviously do the offer first. It's difficult in the beginning because you have no idea what's going to work. So you're going to have to test a lot. However, you don't really have the budget to test a lot because, you want to make sure that every creative is getting an equal shot, and, you're really only going to have budget for a few. So, in the beginning, you're probably only testing 5 ads a week at most. And so you have to make sure that you're testing the right things. This is not the time to test tiny changes or button color. The biggest mistake I see is people trying to test and not being really thoughtful about how they are setting up those tests to generate learnings, because you're not just trying to find a winner that'll spend and scale now. You're trying to find learn a result so that your next test and your test a month from now is going to have a better chance of succeeding, and your floor will be higher, right? Because you're taking the learnings that you've done. And so the most important way to do that is to only test one variable at a time. In the beginning, right? The best way to do it is think about it. I'm going to do the same exact ad, and I'm going to test 3 different hooks in the same exact ad. Or I'm going to do the same exact static, and I'm going to test 3 different headlines. That's what you should be doing. And then you're going to learn, okay, this headline or this angle consistently seems to perform well. I'm going to test this headline now on 3 different creatives. Does a lifestyle perform better than a flat lay than a UGC with that headline? And you want to just continually test those variables. But the mistake I see is somebody will go, I'm going to test this. I'm going to make this ad, which is this random headline with this image. And then the next ad is going to be a different headline, different image. And I have no idea, is it the other one working because of the headline or because of the image? So you really got to get kind of, granular and specific. Also, don't try to, at this size, you should really only be running ads for 1 to 2 products or offers. Don't try to do it for your whole catalog. There's just kind of no reason to. Just kind of focus on one.
So keep the variables as minimal as you can.
Yeah, exactly. Variables as minimal as you can, so you're learning, and just keep doubling down on what's working. You don't need, I guess I'll talk about it later with like the ad account structure and setup, but you don't need like a testing and scaling campaign because you just don't have the budget. So you're just going to launch them into the same one, which is like a challenger campaign. Let's say you launch 5 ads to launch a new one, right? And let's say you have, 6 ads, right? You have 3 different headlines, 2 different images. I think that's right around, whatever. And, let's say 2 of them perform well. And by perform well, they're getting most of the spend above your target ROAS. I'm going to pause 4 of them after 5 days or something. I'm going to launch 4 new ones because I don't want to have more than 6 running. And I'm going to challenge the 2 ones that are the controls are currently running. Let's say one of the old controls continues to do best. One of them actually starts fatiguing. So I'm going to pause the fatiguing one, keep the one live. And let's say out of the new ads, 2 of them do well. So I'll pause whatever didn't do well. So now I've got 1 old one and 2 doing well. Now I have 3 ads running. Great. Next week, I'm going to launch 3 new ones and kind of go and just rinse and repeat from there. You don't need like a separate like testing and scaling campaign. In the beginning, I would go static. The reason why I would do static is because it's really, really easy to test. You can get a Figma file. You can design a Figma file. I am sure there's some AI thing that can do this. I haven't seen anyone that I think does it very well, but probably pretty soon. But it's really easy. Like I'm not a designer, and I can take a Figma file. I can't do it from scratch, but I can take a Figma file and I can change. If I have a Figma file and a headline on an image, I can put in 5 different headlines on that, and export it. In the newsletter, I shouted out creative.io. It's no affiliation, but it's like a $100 essentially template of Figma files of like proven static ads that people can download for $100 and put in Figma and be able to design. So I think that's awesome. And then once you learn, we even do this to this day. I think I personally want to do a lot more static in our account, but once you learn what works, okay, this headline works. Let's say I'm selling, I got a Ridge wallet right here. Let's say I'm selling Ridge wallet and I want to do a 5 reasons why this is the best wallet for construction workers, right? And I'm going to do that. Now I'm going to make let me change that. Let me not go 5 reasons why, because that's more listicle. But let me say that this is the best wallet if you have back pain, right? Now I'm going to brief a content creator for video, which is harder to produce and harder to create. And I'm going to have a content creator talking about how this is great for back pain, because I already know that's an angle that has worked well in other creative. But it's, again, that video might cost me $500 plus all the time and edits and stuff like that. So it's going to be hard. And then it's going to take me 3 weeks to get that video back and then test it, versus I can design in Figma a back pain ad, a static ad today, and launch it today and know in a week if it's going to work. So it's going to be cheaper and easier and a shorter feedback loop. And then I'll be able to kind of test it with video later on, or like double down on it. So that's like my creative flywheel. And then following that, we have landing pages. I think landing pages are the next most important. I have almost never seen product pages, home pages, or collections pages outperform dedicated landing pages. Now, why is that? First of all, a dedicated landing page is a page that, it doesn't have a typical nav bar. It's not on your website. You can't find it. It's just a page that people are going to land on specific to the ad that they come from. Now, imagine you have a retail store and somebody walks in there and there's no sales associate around, and they only came in the store because they saw a little chalkboard on the street saying, we have makeup or whatever it is, right? And they come in, they know nothing about the brand. They've got to kind of show themselves around the store, learn about the brand, make sure it's legit, learn about the products, what do they stand for, and then learn the products. That's kind of what happens on your website, right? All the information is there, but it's not really laid out in a really cohesive way. You got to go to the homepage, scroll down the homepage, see some trust signals, go to the collections page, maybe about page, you make your way to the PDP. That's fine when you have a warmer source of traffic, somebody who has come from direct or organic search and they're kind of searching for you, when they're kind of seeking you out. But when you have just captured somebody's attention while they're just perusing social, it's not a very warm source of traffic, and you've got to be able to hook them instantly. So you need a headline on a landing page that is going to hook somebody instantly. You're not selling just in your ad. You're just selling the click in your ad, selling them to click and be interested, but you have to continue to sell on the landing page. So one thing you can do with your landing page is you can match your ad angle and your headline to your ad, which performs really well. And you can also kind of, lay out all the information that you would need for somebody to really learn everything that they need to know about the brand, about the product, about the offer, about the benefits for them, break down, overcome any objections right there on that landing page that they can kind of scroll and get the information without having to go on 5 different pages on your website. So that's like the landing page TLDR. There are a few templates that people can start with. You have kind of, what Sharma last season called the shout out hooks, the PDP flip, where you're essentially putting a lot of the PDP elements, but you're organizing it in a way that's starting with a big bold headline and getting some social proof, and you're kind of reorganizing it and then get like the buy box later on. You've got what we call the Trojan horse, where it kind of looks like a homepage, but it's actually got a lot of features that are not standard to a homepage to make it convert better than a standard homepage. Like instead of having a header where people can scroll and check out, it has a faux header. So it looks like a header, but it actually just scrolls down or goes to, the next step in the funnel, rather than doing that. And then you also have a listicle. A listicle is like a 5 reasons why. So it's like half list, half article, kind of BuzzFeed style. Those are great. That is where I would recommend majority of brands start. The reason why is because there's really no design that's happening on them. They're the most simple, basic style of pages. At this point, you're not really going to win on your design, right? But you also don't want to lose on design. You don't want to set up a fancy landing page like a PDP flip or like a Trojan horse and not have it be designed that well, because at a small size, you might not have the resources, and then not know if the page is not doing well because it's design or messaging. So let's just go the most basic standard page, very simple, 5 reasons why listicle, 5 reasons why this wallet. I think their headline is 5 reasons why millions are switching to the Ridge wallet, or it could be 5 reasons why this is the best wallet for back pain. And then you'll have 5 reasons. Usually got some social proof. You've got some unique mechanism stuff. You've got some, features. You got some additional benefits, offers, and then a call to action. And, the funny thing, I think Nick talked about this when he was on, is like, you often don't even have to change your bullets on the 5 reasons. Just change your headline and you'll get completely different results. But I would say if you haven't tested listicles, that would be the first thing I would do. I would test. I'd build them in Replo, and test them. And what you can do is, the creative. I guess this goes into the next step. But the targeting in ads has gone from the ad set level where you're going to type in, okay, I want to target people that have back pain. I'm just going to use this Ridge Wallet example. Hopefully they get some good earned media and some searches. If you go and buy a Ridge Wallet from us, make sure you type my name in. So where was I? But okay, so the targeting has gone right. Instead of targeting people that have back pain, you used to be able to go in Facebook and say, I want to target people that have back pain. I never knew if that was legit or not. You're going to target broad. So you're either going to do Advantage Plus, which is Advantage Plus shopping. You don't even have the option to target people, or you're going to keep it broad and you're going to target based on your ad creative and what you're saying your ad creative. And this is at least my understanding how it works. If you are more familiar than me, or if you work at Meta, feel free to kind of, call me out and tell me this is not how it works. But, the algorithm is using machine learning to try to figure out who is best to serve this impression to and who's going to be most likely to engage and ultimately convert. And let's say I have back pain and Eli doesn't. If there's an ad within the hook, within the headline, is saying the best wallet for back pain, and Eli doesn't have back pain, he's just going to skip it, right? And so Meta's going to learn, and from the first 1,000 impressions of people that look like Eli, this type of person, the data I have on this kind of thing, not really relevant. Let me not show it to them more. And so it's kind of create like a lookalike, right? Based on that broad audience. Okay, they're not really going to respond. Oh, you know what? Cody responded really well, and people like Cody responded really well. Not only did they click, but they also stayed longer on the page, and they also purchased. Let me go target it to people more like them. So I think the misnomer when you do broad targeting is that you're sending it to everybody. You're not actually. You're only going to send it to a very small part of your overall audience size. It's just going to be using a wide audience and then using the machine learning algorithm to kind of figure out who to send it to. And so what you can do is you can target different people. I might respond to back pain, and there might be a million other people that like me that respond to back pain, but you're also going to have people that are going to respond well to, like, what would you respond well to if you saw it for a while? What's like another like pain point?
Something slim, something that doesn't take up a ton of space. Like I like keeping my wallet in my back pocket, but I don't want it to be bulky.
Doesn't take a ton of space. Boom. That's another one. And then you have a third one of this is the best looking wallet, right?
Right.
And like that's different. And you might find people that resonate different ones. So in the beginning, you're going to test all those things. You're going to see what works best. And especially when you're launching a brand in the beginning, you really have no idea who your customer is or who your brand is. And I think people know, like, I don't really like the whole avatar thing. Like, this is our avatar. It's Cindy, and she lives at the shore, and she listens to this.
She has an iPhone.
Yeah. And she does this, and on every Tuesday she goes out playing pickleball with her husband. It's like so pointless, right? So just launch a bunch of different avatars and launch a bunch of different, potential pain points or benefits in Facebook on a broad audience with this listicle and this angle, and see who it resonates well with. Okay, you know what? People aren't buying this because it's the best looking wallet, but they're buying it because it fits in their pocket. They're buying it because it stops it's RFID blocking, so people can't steal it, right? Because so we ran an ad and said, stop thieves from stealing your wallet, and introducing the Ridge wallet, right? And we're going to double down on that. We're going to cut what's not working, and that's how we're going to do our targeting. And then we're going to make our landing pages and our targeting and our ad creative match. So if we're talking about RFID on our ad, our landing page should be 5 reasons why the Ridge wallet is the best for blocking RFID or whatever, something like that. And that's what I've seen kind of perform best and do really well. And again, there's a lot of testing, but that's really kind of how I would approach landing pages.
So it's funny because I've never been to like a mastermind, but I feel like this is kind of I feel like I was just sitting in a little mastermind sesh, and I'm now kind of like a D2C ads guru, and I should probably create a course and sling it.
You should launch an ad account
and just kind of start running with it. Test a lot of tests.
This is really everything I know. Like, this is the most important stuff. If you realize we've talked for, what are we at, 30 minutes, and we haven't talked really anything about Facebook setup, right? Like, to me, this is all just marketing and like growth marketing. It's, again, offer, landing pages, creative. I don't know what else we have to say to get it through to people, because I still see so many people not doing this, and they are still going to a PDP, going to a collections page, very generic, on-brand creative that's not really speaking to people's problems or pain points or solutions. And I still think you can do it in an on-brand way that you can feel good about. But it's not resonating with people. To me, performance marketing is about the person who might be seeing the ad, and brand marketing is about the brand. And I think, at this stage in the game, you're using paid because you're trying to reach a new audience who's probably never heard of you before, for brands at like the small size. And so you can't put anything about the brand in it because no one's even ever heard of you. So it's got to be everything about what it does for them. Now,
Yeah.
Ridge Wallet can probably put out an ad and say Ridge Wallet, and people are going to see it and be like, oh, I know them. Like, I've heard this wallet is great, and buy from it. But when they're just starting out, you can't do that. You have to be, right? So you can't follow Apple with what they're saying. You got to follow what Ridge Wallet was doing 3 years ago. And they're still doing it now because they're very savvy and know what they're doing.
It is fascinating. Towards the beginning of this conversation, I was thinking about that, how, there are brands that are running the same ads for 4 years, and suddenly at 4 years it starts working, and they discount the fact that, like, Ridge is D2C mostly, but you think about even a brand like Olipop, the universe that I'm from, where it was like, the ads have gotten so much more efficient over the last year or two because they have this kind of huge halo effect from retail. And now they're convinced that these ads are finally crushing because Facebook figured it out. And in reality, it's like people now recognize Olipop because they're in 30,000 stores. And now suddenly your ads are more efficient because people, like you're saying, people are aware of your universe that you built. But I think very early on, brands are just like, oh, this is why I created the company, so let me tell that to customers. But like when we had Sean on here, he was like, yeah, people buy it and they're excited about it because it's like bulletproof. And I didn't even know that was like a thing that people were excited about.
That would be a good
like,
angle. That would be a great
right?
one. Like, that would be such a great hook. Like, hold it up and have a gun hit it and make it like ASMR and loud. But like, that's the thing. If you're just getting started and you don't have, and this is not at all related to what you're saying, so I apologize.
Yeah.
But if you're just getting started, right, you have no idea what it is. And if you have any customers that are writing to your reviews, like, this is why, like, if we bring it to CX, like, you should be doing CX if you're on the growth team or if you're a founder or something, like, for as long as you can, because it's the only way you're going to know what people are actually saying and why they're buying the product. And that's the best thing to put in your marketing and in your growth materials, is understanding from your customers why they're actually buying the product. All right. And then so one last thing on here, right, is ad account setup. Really, really simple. Okay. There are multiple ways to do it. However, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're using machine learning properly. So you want to make sure you're getting enough data. And that means that you want to do everything you can to shoot for 50 conversions per week to help get out of learning, or at least give it the best chance. So you want to multiply and hopefully this is not too much math for a podcast for me to do publicly, but you want to multiply your target CPA or average CPA. Let's say it's $50. You want to multiply that by 50. And per ad set, that's how many conversions you need per week. Sorry, that's the budget you need per week. So let's say 50 times 50 gets you 2,500, which means per ad set, you need to spend $2,500 a week. Now we're going to divide that by 7. I think that gives you 357. So it's $357, right? So you need to spend over $350 per ad set per week. Now, most brands aren't going to per day, $357 per day to get 50 conversions per week. And I like to shoot for getting more than that just to be safe in case your CPA is higher than you want. Most brands are not going to launch with, a $2,000 a day budget, but most brands are launching with multiple campaigns, multiple ad sets. The reality is most brands are better off launching with less campaigns, less ad sets, 1, 2 maximum. If you're using Advantage Plus, I'd have 1 Advantage Plus. I would recommend Advantage Plus because I don't think you should be messing with interests or lookalikes. I really think it should be broad audiences, which is what Meta's telling you to do with Advantage Plus, and let the creative do the talking. I also personally don't think you should be doing cost caps at this stage. So you want to focus all of your efforts on making your media buying as simple as possible. Media buying only becomes important as you become bigger and you figure it out creative. But keep your media buying as simple as possible. Get enough data, consolidate things enough to let the machine learning do its job properly, and focus on offers, creative, and landing pages. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
I was going to say this is kind of a TED Talk moment. No, this is fantastic. I think it's always been interesting for me because I started my career as a generalist. Like, I became a CX person when I needed a job, and that was like the strongest of my skills. But I think I've always kind of sat near the ad people, and it's so fascinating as like a non-Facebook ads person, but just kind of hearing how all this is built out and how it works. And I think that in talking to people, like, you hear that people consistently get very complex very quickly instead of keeping to like basics. So
yeah, I think I am not at all. I'm kind of also a general, so I'm not at all the best Facebook media buyer. I'm not at all the best copywriter. I can't design. You know what this sounds like? You ever seen that Rick Rubin thing where he's taught the 60 Minutes we do at Aaron's Cooper? That's kind of what vibes. I feel like right now. But he's like, I don't know how to design. I don't know music. I don't know. Like,
Because
So it's like, what do you
what do
get
they
paid
pay
for?
you?
The funniest shit. Yeah, it's like when they ask the brand marketing team what they do. But
Incredible.
but that's kind of how I feel. But like I'm kind of a generalist, so I try my best to focus on the important stuff and the marketing and not the Facebook side of it. And there's still stuff there. I'm not saying media buying is dead, but it's just not where people should be focusing on most of their time.
Amazing. Yeah. So I'll take a couple of minutes just to kind of finish this off on a little CX thing. Something that I've been, and I'm obviously curious to hear your thoughts as I go through this, but something that I've seen, there's like so much chat about, CX teams at fast growing companies.
There's so much chat GPT about it.
I'm literally about to go into some chat GPT stuff. So thanks for setting me up here. But there's so much talk about like, should we keep it internal? Should we outsource? And I've been on the record quite a few times saying how thrilled I am about the outsource CX market. But outside of that, I think that there's like, if we think about these two spectrums, there's efficiency and empathy. That's like the way that I was portraying it is like,
explain what you mean a little bit, just so it's clear.
Yeah. So when I think about efficiency, like let's kind of set the stage. Somebody starts a business, super lean, works with, I don't know, Common Thread Collective, gets their ads set up, works with another agency to get whatever else set up. And then they're kind of this futuristic, visionary founder, big LinkedIn influencer, consistently posting cringy thought bite posts, and they're kind of like excited about efficiency. And their number one thing is, here's how you could use Chat GPT to save yourself 10,000 hours a month. And here is how you should focus, that thing that was going around for a while of like the $1,000 an hour work versus the $10 an hour work. And it was like this like pompous way of saying like, my brain is only cut out to do like the $1 million decisions. And I think there's just been like this obsession with efficiency that started off very, very early in a business. So CX is always like, this is useless. As soon as I get like 5 emails a day, I'm going to find somebody to do it so I can focus on like the real things. And it's kind of piggybacking on your point that you said is like, towards the beginning of the business, like you're describing your product based on what you think your product value is, but you have no idea what customers are saying because somebody in, I don't know where, is answering these emails, right? That's like that one extreme. The other kind of like opposite end is the people that are like, yeah, I'm obsessed with customers. I met somebody actually at this CX roundtable I did a couple of weeks ago. I met somebody who's like, yeah, I spend 5 hours a day in my inbox as a CEO. And I'm like, that's not good. Like you should probably get out of the inbox, right? 5
hours a day?
Yeah.
That's
so that was
crazy.
like the other extreme, right? Where it's like they are obsessed with customer and, our customers are real people. This whole business is customer first. And they have the Zappos book and they're obsessed. And it's kind of like this new age cutesy thing where like I'm customer obsessed and, and they kind of take this thing from Zappos, that Zappos was the entirety of the business. And even, Tony Hsieh wasn't spending 10 hours a day in the inbox, right? So they take this extreme thing on the other side. And again, like the point that I'm trying to get to is pretty straightforward, that there's a middle ground that most founders don't find. I was kind of positioning it. I remember talking to Kevin Lee from EMI, the ramen company. I remember talking about it with him in like mid 2020. That this middle ground is like this 30 minutes a day. Like at the beginning of the business, whatever you can get to in 30 minutes, these customer conversations, once it's more than 30 minutes a day, like try to find somebody. I think the struggle, and this is kind of the last point I'll make, is the struggle is that most brands say like, oh, if I need to find somebody, where do I start? And they kind of look for like, even if they decide to keep it internal, they look for somebody that's like hourly and has an hour or two to work. And the people that have like an hour or two to work are either in college and their hours are sporadic, or they're people that you probably, if somebody only wants to work an hour a day, they might not be the person you want to hire. It's very hard to find like top quality, amazing people that are only looking to work 2 hours a day. And the kind of little hack that I was sharing that a lot of people enjoyed, and I think is easier now than ever, is think about your favorite CX brand and think about the people that are crushing it and just reach out to them and say, hey, do you have like an hour a day, like from 8 to 9 p.m.? Like, are you down to give me an hour? Instead of paying $15 an hour, pay them $50 and say like, I need an hour a day. And you'll be shocked, because as I talk to people, I realized that I was talking to somebody who had the same size business as ours, and they have 30 people in the Philippines answering their emails. We're a team of 8, right? So it's like, we're spending the same much money. We're just like, this is our native language. We do this all day. We have figured out efficiency.
So why is that? Because I'm not as familiar with, obviously, outsourcing it. Are they not working as hard? Is it a language thing? Is there something our team is doing that you should be sharing?
Yeah, well, I think it's a few things. So first of all, yes, it's probably a language thing. As much as people say like this is their native language, it's not. They move slower. They're typing slower. They are not as efficient as us. I think like some of the best people on our team, and I talk to like other brands, they're like, oh yeah, my best person on my team is answering 100 emails. The best person on our team is answering 350 a day. What is it? It's people that are really sharp are realizing that the
nice humble brag.
It's huge. Yeah, it's not even humble.
Yeah.
It's just a straight brag. But I think it's like the reason why it works this way is because we hire killers that are looking at like, okay, these are the basic 10 questions I'm getting every day. Instead of just like copy pasting, I'm creating like basic formats. I'm creating like a macro that has like space for me to get hyper personal in while still keeping the frame. And I think that's like the huge thing here is like nobody even does the math to understand like when you outsource, how many more people are you employing? And like, it's not $5 an hour because you're paying the agency money and you're paying the training, and it's not always cheaper, but nobody even does the math.
How many tickets are they doing a day then? The outsource.
I mean, if you do the math, it's like, I shouldn't even comment because I don't know. But I know
it's
that
way less. You think it's less than 100?
They had the same amount of tickets as us, and they had 30 people, and we have 8.
Got it. Yeah, I guess you could do the math.
So,
do you know, without outing the brand, do you know, like, have you interacted with this brand CX, and would you know that it's not, an American team? Like, can you tell?
I think that it really depends. Like, I shouldn't say you can always tell. I think that it on a phone call, yeah, you can tell. If it's not on a phone call, like, you can't always tell. I mean, personally, like I can probably tell just because I feel like sometimes it's very, very, very scripted. And when you push back, they don't go off the script, right? So for example, you'll be like, hey, I got this and it doesn't work. And they'll send you like, hey, this is our return policy. And I'll say, yeah, but I'm at 1 day out. And they'll say like, unfortunately, this is our return policy. And you're like,
yeah.
I mean, you can be onshore and still be a dumbass or like an asshole, right? Like you can not want to make a customer happy here too. But I think it's people feeling like invested on the brand side really, really strongly because this is their 9 to 5. This is what they do. But yeah, this kind of like hack is, and it's not just CX, it's across the business. Like when you're a very small business, instead of trying to hire like an entry level person and pay them like, I don't know, 50, 60 or whatever a year, think about hire a top tier person for less hours because that's all you need of like an hour or 2 a day. And as you scale, you can either say like, oh, this is important enough that I can kind of figure out how to make their compensation make sense for them to leave where they are. Or you can get to a point where like, oh, now I'm ready for like a full-time job that actually makes sense. But yeah.
So with like an employee with somebody on your team who's doing 350 tickets a day, that's a lot, right, to get through. How do you ensure that you are, like you said, balancing that efficiency and cranking them out with like still giving people a personal touch and taking the time? What's the balance there?
So I think the broader theory I have is like, and Sydney, who's the CX lead on my team, and I were working with this kind of like an efficiency scale of like, what does it look like when you're super quiet versus when you're super busy? Like, how should you be working differently? And I think it's like 350 is like the highest end when we have 10,000 tickets we have to get through versus like on a quieter day. So like personalization, right? Like we are using macros as much as we possibly can when shit's hitting the fan. We are adding as little as we possibly can. We're doing as little research as we can to get by. So for somebody that reaches out like, hey, I ordered this and I expected that, and last time this and last time that, and they send 7 paragraphs, we'll try our best to like focus on what's right now. How can we resolve this and get them their answer today, get their product today and be done with it versus if somebody's sending paragraphs and we have the time to do the diligence and what happened last order, what did you order, what did you want, how can we get more in detail? So I think that's like the key is, and that's another thing when you have an internal team that's dedicated to just crushing it for the brand, there's a very, very, very different skill set of like, how do you make sure that somebody crushes it both when it's quiet to when it's busy? Because there's like this push to, once you figure out this efficiency, like why would you slow down, right? It's like if I can do 300, why would I do 100 and do them really well? But I do think it's a skill set, right? Like being able to kind of like work really, really quickly and efficiently, and then also slow down and kind of like, it's very hard to pause and make a, like we had this customer moment this week that Sydney on the CX team shared from the roadies, where like somebody was sharing that their JRB makeup is kind of like taking them through this hard time and they're feeling great. They lost their husband a week ago. And it's like, if you're moving really quickly, you don't always catch these kind of like spur of the moment, like mentioning, like you just read it and you're like, oh, you love the JRB makeup. Thank you. Right. Like you don't catch these like reading between the line moments. And we've had, like I have shared this, like the moments we created at Olipop, and now it's like, it's happening here, right? It has nothing to do with
it's so cool.
product.
The one you sent me last week.
Yeah.
The one you sent me last week was awesome. The video somebody shared. And I think I was scrolling through like the roadies this week, which is, for everyone that doesn't know, is like our Facebook group with like our VIPs. And we did like a Graza olive oil giveaway to a bunch of people. And it was just everyone posting it. And like people were super appreciative. So very cool.
And it's like one of these things that I talk about very often, but I think it's amazing to prove like how easy, like talking tactical, like how easy and how it was like a couple of $100, right? And we sent people this, they weren't feeling great. We sent them olive oil with like a note of like, this will help your immune system. Cheers from the JRB family, right? It was like, cheers from the JRB team, right? It's like these tiny little moments, but it just is like, wait, what the hell? Like I bought skincare from them. Why are they sending me olive oil? Like, and the video was kind of like so pure because it was this person just going through something. We had no idea, right? It was just like, she wasn't feeling great, but we had no idea that she was like getting to a certain age where she felt like her body was changing. And, this was like such a touching moment. But it happens when you slow down, right?
I love it. One last question about CX. Yep. On a lot of people's mind. I saw some stuff coming out with it. I forget if we talked about it or not. Artificial intelligence and CX. Worried, excited, no feelings about it. How do you feel about it?
I think it's like it's one of those things kind of continuing what I was just saying around having the ability to slow down. Like in a perfect world, AI is that macro. Like AI is that like puts together a beautifully wrapped package of text for you. And then you have the ability to add a human touch. And I think we're seeing that across like everywhere where AI is kicking in, right? Like AI can make the most ridiculously bussin' thread of the year on Twitter, but like it won't feel like you unless you add a little bit of, and it's like, yeah, well, tell ChatGPT to do it like Eli Weiss would. It's like at the end of the day, like that little personal touch. So I think it accelerates all the kind of like menial tasks that are related to CX, like where's my order? Like, okay, like, we'll send that to you again, or like, can you send my tracking info again? Like that, all that it fills in, and then it just gives you the allowance. Like I'll take that same budget, and like if we can move 10 times as fast instead of hiring another team or another 4 team members, like now we can grow this team, and now we can focus on doing more delightful moments. I think it's like it helps people perform their best. It's kind of the same as.
Where is it? Like, is it there yet? Are there tools that you can actually use, or it's more of like a pipe dream right now?
It's basically kind of like, you think about OpenAI and ChatGPT, and you think about Google, and kind of like if you listen to All In Pod, you'll get the full spectrum of what's happening broadly. But I think where we are now is just people building layers on top of OpenAI's API. So what you're seeing now is Gorgeous has their own. I think the kind of like the model is it's all built on the same OpenAI model. So it really depends like how great these tools are making it, like how great they are at making it feel native to the platform. So it's not like a separate external thing. It's more like in Gorgeous, I can click a button and it drops it into my draft.
Cool.
It's getting solid. Like I think the trick is always training, right? Like you have a model that's pulling off, like based on a customer reaches out, says light moisture cream is amazing. Can you recommend me something similar? Right. So it's like they can recommend something similar based on my responses. But if a customer never asks, like, how can I feed this model our entire product catalog and all of our internal decks that explain the product? So when a customer reaches out and says like, hey,
and it's not doing that currently.
I think that they are working on it, but for the most part, they're not becoming like another human. Like, for example, somebody reaches out and says like, I love face pencil, but it doesn't have enough coverage. Like the model is not smart enough to be like, well, you should use WTF, and based on your face pencil shade, here's your foundation shade. Like that's the future.
Yeah, I agree. I know. I feel like so much is theoretical. Besides like ChatGPT and Notion AI, like I haven't actually, the tools that I've played around with, none of them have been like, oh, like for example, like for our podcast clips, I sent you one. We played around with one to try to make clips, short videos from the YouTube videos, and like you were like they're not very good. Like so much of it is theoretical, but I feel like a lot of this stuff is just not there yet. So
yeah, your
jobs are safe for now.
Yeah. Yeah, right. It was interesting, that video clip thing, because it was like it was doing a fine job. It was just like cutting out mid sentence, right? It was like grasping like where people are getting excited, and this is a moment to cut, but it wasn't fully getting the entire paragraph. And once you have to edit it yourself, you're kind of like
not even worth it.
It probably depends for who.
Yeah. I want to fuck around. All right, cool. Well, I think we should end it there. What do you think?
I think we're in a good place, and maybe next week you fuck around and do a little growth deep dive, and then we have a couple of guests that we'll bring on. And
we said we're gonna bring on some more guests this season, which I'm pumped about.
Yeah.
Enough of us blabbering. See you guys in episode 5.
Cheers.